Can we talk about how these two Star Wars projects are coming out seemingly the perfect time considering the results of the election? So we have Andor Season 2 and we have The Mask of Fear, which is the first book in a new trilogy about the basically at the time of the rise of the Empire in Star Wars, told from the perspectives of, the Rebel Alliance hasn't been formed yet, but it's the politicians, it's the senators, it's the kind of underground resistance type movement that we see forming and growing in Andor. I was already so excited for Andor Season 2 and this new book series, but I'm even more excited to see these two projects come to life and to have a lot of the feelings of hopelessness, but also like the desire to fight back and to like do every possible little thing we can in the face of the type of totalitarianism and imperial rule and things like that is like so greatly reflected in the Star Wars universe and always has been. Star Wars has always been this way. It has always been reflecting a lot of the events and issues that we see in our own world, and that's a big reason why I love Star Wars. Star Wars has always been political. The projects, the books, the comics, everything. It doesn't matter if you are a big fan of the original trilogy or like the newer series like The Mandalorian, things like that. All of those are so entrenched, rooted in politics. If you need book recommendations to hold you over before Andor Season 2 and The Mask of Fear come out, I have to recommend The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire, which is a in-universe historical text. It reads like you are a student, you're a scholar within the Star Wars universe. It is the end of the Skywalker saga, which is probably not what it's known by within the universe. It is after the rise of Skywalker, and you are reading about the history of the galaxy, and you're learning about the history of the Galactic Empire with roots all the way back, before the prequel movies, time of the Clone Wars, through the rise of the Empire. You're learning about Palpatine and how the Empire was ruled and the bureaucracy of it, and you're learning about how the Rebel Alliance took it down. In this book, you're also learning about how, despite the Rebel Alliance destroying the Empire never really fully left. It had remnants out there that festered in the outer reaches of the galaxy. You have the generation that was the Galactic Empire passing on that sense of control and hatred onto the next generation, which then forms the First Order. And you're seeing how the seeds of that are planted during the time of the original trilogy, during the time of the destruction of both Death Stars, and immediately after. Honestly, I think The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire is an essential read for every Star Wars fan, every type of Star Wars fan. If you read one Star Wars book, I beg you to read this one. And even if you are not a big reader, this is just such an incredible work that it is fictional, but it is incredibly well researched, and you will be hard pressed to not find nods to reflections of our own world and our own issues and our own politics in this book. Author Chris Kempshaw also wrote in our own universe, The History and Politics of Star Wars, Death Stars and Democracy, and that is a actual non-fiction historical text that takes Star Wars characters and events and movies, TV shows, books, things like that, and draws on the reflections to our own world. It explains the inspiration behind those characters and those scenes and those storylines from the original trilogy all the way to the sequel trilogy, prequel trilogy, things like that. I highly recommend that book for someone who is interested in historical inspiration, like real world history inspiring media and culture. I will likely be revisiting these two books in anticipation of Andor Season 2 and of The Mask of Fear, which is gearing up to be my most anticipated Star Wars book of 2025.